very much, sir. The Speaker, House of Representatives, Deputy Speaker, leadership of the House, members of the House of Representatives, I stand before you this morning with the greatest respect and honor to this hallowed chamber. My name is General Christopher Gwabin Musa, the Chief of Defense Staff, Armed Forces of Nigeria. By the virtue of my appointment, I coordinate the activities of the armed forces together with all security agencies. Let me start by firstly appreciating God Almighty for the opportunity to be here this morning, for also appreciating the House for giving us the opportunity to be here. I wish to also state that we, on behalf of the security forces, regret the incidents of last week that we're not able to be here in person. It was not on purpose, it was not personal. Basically, because of the challenges we're having, most of us were not available, and that's why we felt it was, since the date had been fixed, the chiefs of operations should attend. But we have taken correction, and we assure you of our dedication, commitment to service, and to the greatest respect to this hallowed chamber. That we know the relevance and the importance of the House of Reps. Your success is our success, and we will not ever take that for granted. I want to thank you very much for this opportunity, sir. As a follow-up, I'll give opportunity for the Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Naval Staff, Chief of Air Staff, and the Inspector General of Police to give us a little brief on what they are doing for the first 10 minutes each, and then before I'll come back to round up. With the permission of the Right Honorable Sir, I invite the Chief of Army Staff to take the first shot. Thank you very much, sir.
Distinguished Speaker, House of Representatives, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, PhD, the Deputy Speaker, the leadership of the House of Representatives, honorable members, members of the press, good morning. I am Lieutenant General T.A. Lagbaja, the Chief of Army Staff. I want to start by appreciating the Speaker, House of Representatives, and the honorable members of this House for inviting me to shed light on the activities of the Nigerian Army, and in so doing, get feedback from distinguished members who are revered representatives of the people. The 1999 Constitution, as amended, Section 217, provided that the nation will have an armed forces consisting of the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force. This section of the Constitution broadly outlined some responsibility to the armed forces. And this includes the defense of the nation against external aggression, defeating internal insurrection, acting in aid of civil authority, and performing any other task that may be assigned by the President, Commander-in-Chief, but subject to the Act of the National Assembly. In line with this constitutional provision, the Nigerian Army has been in existence since the 1800s. And currently, the Army is organized into a theater command domiciled in Maiduguri in the northeast, consisting of 3 sectors. We have 8 divisions, a special forces command, multiple brigades, and several battalions. These formations and units of the Nigerian Army are deployed across the nation and pursuant to the constitutional provision, they are conducting operations and other activities to ensure that there is peace, stability, law and order across the country. Our strategy as an army to combat the multifaceted security challenges confronting us as a nation is the deployment of forces in each of the 6 geopolitical zones to conduct operations to combat the security threats. In this deployment, the Nigerian Army has lead in 3 of the zones. These deployments are joint, they are multi-agency, and in some instances, multinational in nature. In the Northeast, we have the Joint Task Force Northeast Operation Adinkai. It is an Army-led operation. It is joint, and the bulk of Nigerian Army troops are deployed in this theater. The nature of the challenge there is terrorism and insurgency. The troops are currently combating the threats, and the tactics employed by these dissidents and criminal elements include the use of IED, improvised explosive devices, that has resulted in casualty in men and equipment. In the Northwest, the operation is nicknamed Operation Adarin Daji. It's an Army-led operation, joint in nature. It is an anti-banditry, anti-kidnapping, and the operation is designed to combat other forms of insecurity. In the North Central, we have 2 major operations. Operation Wild Punch, covering Kaduna and Niger State largely, and Operation Wild Stroke, covering Benue, Taraba, Nasarawa, and parts of FCT. In the South-South, the Joint Task Force is led by the Nigerian Navy, considering the maritime nature of that environment, but the Army contributes its own quota to the success of the operation. In the operation tagged Operation Delta Save, it is designed to protect the nation's critical economic infrastructure and combat other security threats. In the Southeast, owing to the land-based nature of the environment, the operation tagged Operation Udoka is Army-led, and it covers all the 5 Southeast states. In the Southwest, the Joint Task Force is tagged Operation Awase, designed to safeguard the critical oil and gas infrastructure and combat other challenges. Additional to this, large task forces deployed across the 6 geopolitical zones. The army, your army and the people's army, also has forward operational bases designed to ensure that the troops are adequately deployed and forwardly positioned to respond to emergencies. We do not want to wait for your alarm before calling out troops from the barracks. Currently, we maintain about 40 of these forward operational bases all across the country. Additional to this, we conduct intelligence-based operation to act as stopgap and to ensure that there's no disruption in the troops currently deployed and forwardly poised to combat threats. And one of such operations is the Operation Akorin Damisa that is currently ongoing in the Mangu local government area of Plateau State. Operation Mugumbugu is currently taking place in Niger State, and we have such similar operations ongoing across the country. In the conduct of these operations, the Nigerian Army, we want to appreciate the support and the cooperation of the National Assembly, especially the House of Representatives, for appropriating the fund that has been used in the provision of essential welfare support and operational needs of the troops, and has given the troops the flexibility to conduct operations in the field. If I'm to measure the effectiveness and the performance of these troops, I would say the troops have performed creditably, and looking back to where we came from in the Northeast, and when we got to the crescendo in 2014, while the insurgents were bent on establishing caliphate, the troops have been able to rein in the threats and achieve a great deal of stability in the Northeast. In the Northwest, the threat is complex and it is adaptive. The threat started on the low level, engaged in cattle rustling, but today they kidnap people en masse for ransom. As a response to this evolving threats in the Northwest, the Nigerian Army is tweaking with its operation, and we're expanding our frontier to ensure we quickly facilitate stability in the Northwest. In the North Central, considering that most of the challenges are communal based and local to most of the communities, the Nigerian Army has had to rely on other critical stakeholders, especially the traditional rulers, the clergy, to combat the threat, in addition to the use of they add power, which is the military power. Across other zones of the country, the troops are doing well, and they are ready to go and do more. The challenges that confront these troops in the conduct of operations, like I've mentioned, include they are largely derived from the tactics employed by the criminal elements and the dissident groups. The use of improvised explosive devices confer advantage on an inferior force. And the classical example I used to use is when you have a force that uses crude incendiary made with about 20,000 naira, destroying a tank purchased for about 1 million naira. Some of these encounters come at great cost, not only in equipment, but also in terms of personnel loss. I want to place it on record there this morning that the Nigerian Army will continue to remain responsive to its constitution and mandate, despite the challenges that confront us as an army. The troops will continue to give their best, even at the expense of laying down their lives, to ensure peace, stability, law and order in accordance with our constitutional mandate. I want to thank the distinguished speaker, the leadership, and the honorable members of this House of Assembly, the House of Representatives, for inviting me to shed light on our activities, and I'm open to comments, contributions, observations, and questions. Thank you very much, distinguished representative.
The Honorable Speaker of the House, honorable leaders and members of this distinguished House, the Chief of Defense Staff and Service Chiefs and IGP, members of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, invited guests. I am Vice Admiral E.I. Ogala, Chief of Naval Staff, and I'm delighted to be here with you on the invitation to participate in this well-intended, well-timed security sector debate for the House of Representatives. I will start my brief by starting from the known before I go into the unknown. What all of us know here is that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, has vested the responsibility of the defense of the nation's territorial integrity and sovereignty to the armed forces of Nigeria, of which the Nigerian Navy is a part of. Particularly, the Nigerian Navy, under this constitutional rule, takes responsibility for the defense of the nation's territorial integrity and sovereignty, particularly in the maritime domain. In addition, the Armed Forces Act, which is an act of the National Assembly, has vested other roles on the Nigerian Navy. The Armed Forces Act, in addition to the roles of the constitutional roles assigned to the Navy, has vested the Nigerian Navy with the role of assisting and coordinating the enforcement of all custom laws in Nigeria in the maritime domain, assisting and coordinating the enforcement of all immigration laws within the maritime domain, and also assisting in enforcing all laws acceded to Nigeria, international laws, regional laws, and other conventions of which Nigeria is a signatory. The Nigerian Navy has responsibility for carrying out these roles based on the Armed Forces Act. In addition, the Armed Forces Act has vested the Nigerian Navy with the responsibility of coordinating all national hydrographic surveys. If you look at the roles of the Nigerian Navy, in the Navy we've been able to classify it into three. Our basic military role, which is defense of the nation's territorial integrity. Then other roles, we have classified them into what we call our policing roles and our diplomatic roles. And it is based on these roles that the Nigerian Navy have developed a strategy of action on how to achieve these mandates. Our policing roles are basically what we call our provision of military aid to civil authority and military aid to civil power. This is what encompasses our roles in terms of internal security, our ability to police the maritime environment, and even our strategic involvement in the defense of the nation's offshore oil and gas resources, in addition to other resources within the maritime environment. Now, looking at these roles, for us to be able to perform these roles in the maritime domain, we have to look at what is the extent of Nigeria's maritime environment. Nigeria, based on United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, has an exclusive economic zone of 200 nautical miles from the baseline. Baseline means the coastline. These 200 nautical miles, considering our coastline of about 420 nautical miles, translate to about 84,000 square nautical miles. If you convert it to square kilometers, it gives you roughly about 300,000 square kilometers, which is about 1/3 of Nigeria's landmass. This is the extent of the responsibility that the Nigerian Navy has to police, particularly when it comes to our policing duties. And it is beyond that, because Nigeria, based on our strategic position in the Gulf of Guinea, sees the entire Gulf of Guinea as our maritime area of interest. And therefore, we have a larger role even beyond our exclusive economic zone. Now, this maritime area of interest and our maritime environment is the treasure base of the nation's resources, starting from oil and gas to fisheries and other mineral resources, then including the fact that it constitutes a major trade route. Of course, we all know here that over 80% of all trade between Nigeria and other countries are based on seaborne trade. This gives a vast responsibility to the Nigerian Navy. In order to carry out this responsibility, the Nigerian Navy, over the years, have developed various strategies. Our most recent strategy is what we call the Total Spectrum Maritime Strategy, in which we have divided the entire spectrum of our environment into 5 spectrums, consisting of the exclusive economic zone, the territorial waters and the inland waters. And when I say the inland waters, I mean all the creeks and rivers up to Lake Chad. Those are part of our inland waters. Then the land spectrum. It is our total spectrum maritime strategy which we have designed that enables us to be able to deploy within the land spectrum of Nigeria's, and that is why the Nigerian Navy is presently deployed in over 30 states of this country in support of the police and the army when it comes to internal security operations. In order to be able to achieve the objectives of this, our strategy, we have developed various operational commands. We have 3 operational commands, one in the east, one in the central, and one in the west. We have the logistics command, we have the Naval Doctrine Command. All these are areas in which we have organized the Nigerian Navy to be able to achieve this, our statutory mandate. In line with our strategy also, we have developed what we call the Trinity of Action concept. And this is where our operations are based on 3 aspects. That is surveillance, response capability, and then law enforcement. Surveillance is our ability to be able to see a complete picture of the maritime environment and our operating environment in such a way that we minimize our deployments to be able to achieve better results with less. In terms of this surveillance, the Nigerian Navy have developed what we call the Falcon Eye Maritime Surveillance System, which gives us a complete 24 hours all-weather picture of the maritime environment, particularly looking outward towards the sea. With this facility, in addition to other forms of intelligence and surveillance facility using our helicopters and others, we are confident to say that we have a complete environment outside the backwaters and the creeks. Also, as part of the Trinity of Action, we have over the years developed a fleet that is competent and responsive, that can respond to any identified threat which our surveillance systems detect. We have various offshore patrol vessels, frigates, and other patrol platforms to be able to achieve this response capability. Now, in terms of the law enforcement, the Nigerian Navy is working closely with other agencies, particularly the Nigerian Police, the Nigerian EFCC, and other law enforcement agencies to be able to ensure that when we detect, we respond, and we arrest, that the criminals are actually brought into book to be able to answer for their crimes. Because we realize that no matter what we do, without the law enforcement bringing these criminals to book, we will always go back to start from the beginning. As part of this concept, within the past few years, we have been engaged in several operations. Some of these operations are basically targeted at ensuring that we reduce crimes in the maritime environment, particularly critical issues of crude oil theft. We all know that Nigeria is an oil-producing country, and our economic survival depends on how we are able to protect that vital resource. And as such, we have several operations that are targeted towards this, and as well as securing the maritime environment from other forms of criminalities. Particular note is our Operation Dakata Dabarao, which in Hausa language, okay, I know why the honorable members are laughing. It means catch the thief. Well, this, as the name implies, the operation is designed to be able to bring crude oil theft and other criminal activities in the maritime environment to a halt. When I mean a halt, may not be to reduce it to zero, but to bring it to the barest minimum. And since we launched that operation, what we have been noticing is a gradual and continuous reduction in the activities of these criminals.
Order, please. Order. Order, please, in the House. Order.
We also have several operations. Recently, we launched what we call the Operation Water Guard, mostly in the Western Front, that is between Nigeria and the Republic of Benin. This operation is designed to address the prevailing threat in that area, the prevailing maritime crime in that area, which is smuggling of rice, smuggling of fuel to our other countries, which is one of the major areas that the President and Commander-in-Chief have directed us to make sure we face them headlong. Operation Water Guard has been critical in reducing criminal activity, particularly smuggling of petroleum products to the Republic of Benin and Togo and the rest of them. We have recorded a lot of successes in this regard. We are also engaged in Operation Awase in Lagos area. Of course, we all know that the Lekki axis of Lagos is gradually becoming an economic nerve center of this country. If you take statistics of all the container and shipping activities that come into Nigeria, over 70% of them end up between Lagos and Ogun State. Now the Dangote refinery is also coming up, and we see this area as strategic and important, and we believe that it is only if we put our resources there that we'll be able to check these crimes before they escalate. And to this extent, we have established an operational base in the Lekki Free Zone area and also at the Takwa Bay area. I make bold to say that the Dangote refinery has given us letter of commendation based on our activities in securing the environment within that area. In addition to other various operations which the Nigerian Navy is undertaking, we are also engaged in other critical areas of regional collaboration. Because for those of us who are aware of how the maritime environment is a very fluid environment, there are no boundaries, even though we have maritime boundaries, but you cannot see any physical line to tell you that you are in Nigeria, or you are in Cameroon, or you are in another water. Moreover, ocean current flow from country to country. The fishes move around. They don't care about boundary. And that is why we must engage other neighboring countries and work in hand with them. And that is why we have been engaged in several aspects of international and regional collaboration. We engage in international regional exercises, like exercise of Bangame, which we just concluded recently, exercise and other areas of collaboration. In fact, the Yaoundé Code of Conduct, through that Yaoundé Code of Conduct of 2014, we were able to establish what we call the Regional Maritime Control Centers, both in Abidjan and Cameroon, whereby we exchange information with all these our regional neighbors with a view to checkmating these transnational crimes in the maritime environment. Now, based on these operations, we have recorded tremendous achievements over the years. I will not go into these achievements one by one, but I wish to put on record here that prior to 2022, Nigeria was listed as one of the pirate-prone countries in the world. But based on the activities and efforts of the Nigerian Navy, the Nigerian maritime environment was delisted from that list, and Nigeria is now considered a piracy-free nation. This has several implications, both in terms of confidence of investors in the maritime environment within Nigeria, and in terms of even premium on insurance for vessels coming into Nigeria. There has been a drastic reduction in this premium, which will definitely, within a very short time, begin to impact on goods and services that are coming into Nigeria. It is also on record that within the past 1 or 2 months, there has been some improvement in terms of oil production. This is not just something that was by accident. It is by the continuous effort of the Nigerian Navy and other security agencies, the Army, the police, and the rest of us. We have done this because when I took over, the first thing I told, based on my own command philosophy, is that we must purge ourselves. And by the time we purge ourselves, we'll be able to purge others. That is what we are doing. So the issue of collusion, the issue of involvement in crimes, the issue of aiding the saboteurs, I can say that we have brought it to almost zero as I am speaking to you now. And that is why these improvements are being recorded. Sir, I want to first of all thank the House for your continuous and unflinching support to the Nigerian Navy, both in terms of making adequate appropriations for us to do our job, and in providing support for us. The public enlightenment, including what we are doing now, is part of those things that assist the people to know exactly what we are doing in order to support us and to support you. I want to thank you for that. But I must also say that the Nigerian Navy is a service that is technology-based. It is a service that is resource-based. There is no Navy that can function without adequate resources. We are doing our best within the available resources, but we continue to seek your intervention and your support to provide more resources for us to be able to do our job. These resources are basically required in terms of what we call fleet renewal, that is to buy more ships and platforms and aircrafts, construct jetties and other support facilities for the Nigerian Navy. They are also required in terms of human capital development. The Navy is just about, not just about 30,000 for now. we are making effort to expand the size of the Navy and train them adequately to be able to meet the objectives of the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for the betterment of the nation and the well-being of its people. And to this end, sir, I want to just suggest a few ways forward for us to be able to do more. We are requesting the House to intervene in ensuring that we are able to enhance our surveillance capability to cover the backwaters. Like what I said earlier, our surveillance capability, using the technology-based surveillance capability, captures only the coastal waters up to the EEZ and beyond. But we are looking at how to extend it to cover the backwaters, the creeks, the rivers, and other areas within the land domain that are behind the coastline. If we do this, we should be able to adequately say that those other activities of oil theft, pipeline vandalization, illegal refineries, and so on, we'll be able to see them 24 hours irrespective of the weather. As at now, we depend on human intelligence and other forms of intelligence to be able to intercept and deal with these areas. And not minding that, we have done a lot in this regard. There is no day that we do not deactivate some of these illegal refineries, and it is always very easy for these criminals to go back and reset up. But we are dealing with them as we continue to face them. We're also requesting, sir, that there's a bill that is pending at the National Assembly, which is what we call the Maritime Security Trust Fund. We recognize that budgetary allocations have never been enough to address all the critical challenges of any navy, not only in Nigeria, but all over the world. And that is why we propose this Maritime Security Trust Fund to enable the operators in this industry pay a little token of their profit dedicated to provision of platforms and other facilities for addressing oil theft. It will not only be channeled to the Nigerian Navy, but to all other agencies that are engaged in addressing oil theft and addressing other forms of illegalities in our maritime domain. This is one of the areas that we are requesting the the House of Reps to assist us. On this note, sir, I want to thank the Speaker once again for the opportunity that you have given to me to come here and make this presentation. We are open and we are ready to take other areas of contributions and questions, because we recognize that no man has it all. And we can always get something that we can use to modify our operations from this honorable House. I thank you very much, sir.
House of Representatives, Rights Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, PhD. The Deputy Speaker, Right Honorable Benjamin Kalu. Distinguished members of the House of Representatives, the Chief of Defense Staff and other service chiefs, the Inspector General of Police, ladies and gentlemen, I am Air Marshal H.B. Abubakar, the Chief of the Air Staff. Let me start by apologizing for my inability to personally appear before you last week, Thursday. It was entirely due to reasons beyond my control. Let me also appreciate the leadership of the House of Representatives for initiating this interactive forum aimed at improving the constitutional oversight of the executive arm of government. I am aware that this wonderful initiative aims at providing our lawmakers with the opportunity to interrogate government officials on areas in need of legislative interventions. Let me also use this opportunity to appreciate the federal government under the able leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu Grand Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic, as well as members of this hallowed chamber, for the attention given to the Nigerian Air Force in terms of platforms acquisition, maintenance, training, logistics support, and enhanced personnel welfare. These have immensely enabled the capacity and capability of the Nigerian Air Force to frontally tackle the myriad of security challenges facing our dear nation. Distinguished members, the Nigerian Air Force has consistently carried out its responsibilities and ensured its mandate is upheld since its establishment in 1964. I'm sure they are also aware that our security environment remains fluid and unpredictable due to threats posed by terrorists, insurgents, and other criminal elements. Now, in furtherance of efforts of the armed forces to tackle these challenges, the Nigerian Air Force has continued to conduct independent and joint operations aimed at decimating these criminal elements. This has been achieved from January to November this year through 24,795 sorties, with over, again, 27,769 hours flown, while consuming 15,864,000 liters of Jet A1 aviation fuel. Now, this brief will apprise the distinguished members of this House with the progress being made by the Nigerian Air Force operations in curbing these threats, as well as the challenges that we encounter and suggested ways forward. Starting with the progress. Now, in efforts towards addressing activities of insurgents and other criminal elements, the Nigerian Air Force embarked on a wide range of intensive air operations aimed at not only decimating the criminals and denying them freedom of action, but also shaping the operational environment in the various theaters of operations for successful ground offensives. The Nigerian Air Force is currently involved in 7 different theaters of operations across the country, and I will talk briefly on these theaters one after the other, starting with the Joint Task Force Operation Hadinkai. The Air Component Operation Hadinkai has continued to conduct joint air operations with the Land Component and the Multinational Joint Task Force to deny the terrorists freedom of action and degrade their capability to conduct attacks against soft targets and own troops.
Order, 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 please.
Within the operation, sub-operations such as Operation Desert and Lake Sanity, Operation Mountain Sanity, and Operation Warun were initiated to degrade the terrorist capability and enable ground troops to exploit the environment in order to restore peace around the troubled areas. Now, through these efforts, key terrorist leaders and their foot soldiers have been neutralized, with many surrendering till date. Next is Operation Hadarin Daji. Now, this operation is primarily tasked with the conduct of air operations to annihilate terrorists and combat criminal activities such as cattle rustling, kidnapping, violent attacks, and other acts of criminalities within the joint operations areas, covering Katsina, Zamfara, Sokoto, and Kebbi states. Now, in line with its mandate, the Air Component has conducted several operations in coordination with the land forces, which has led to the elimination of some of the prominent terrorist kingpins. Now a look at Operation Well Punch. Operation Well Punch is an amalgamation of Operation Thunder Strike in Kaduna and Operation Gamaiki in Niger State, and an increase in the span of control that included Kogi State and the Federal Capital Territory. Though terrorists and bandits operating mainly around Kaduna and Niger States have been very fluid in view of the large expanse of ungoverned spaces within both states, the air components had conducted a series of operations within its joint operations area with positive consequences within the areas of responsibility. Operation Wellstroke. The mandate of Operation Wellstroke, covering Benue, Nasarawa, and Taraba states, is to end the incessant killings of innocent citizens by armed headers, militia groups, and other criminal elements. This has been largely achieved through deployment of troops in patrols, patrol bases, conduct of recce, fighting patrols, raids, and destruction of identified armed militia camps, hideouts, and leading to the arrest of several militias and neutralizing several bandits. Operation Delta Safe. Now, Operation Delta Safe was established to curtail the menace of illegal bunkering of oil, pipeline vandalism within the Niger Delta region, and the Nigerian Air Force was tasked to conduct appropriate air operations in support of the land and maritime components. The Nigerian Air Force has also deployed over 400 Special Forces personnel in addition to the air efforts, thereby leading to the destruction of numerous illegal oil refining sites. Now, last but not the least of the operations is Operation Udoka 2. Now, recent calls by the IPOB for sit-at-home in the southeast led to the review of escalating insecurity in the region, and consequently, estimative intelligence demanded greater unity of ongoing kinetic efforts towards containing the activities of the separatist groups such as the Indigenous Peoples of Biafra and Eastern Security Network, as well as other criminal elements in the zone. Accordingly, Operation Udoka 2 was activated to serve as a precursor activity to shape security situation in the region within a 4-month estimate ending by 30th of this month, November 2023. Since its activation, the operation has recorded considerable success through continuous air operations conducted against IPOB and Eastern Security Network. Now, a look at some of the challenges that we face in the conduct of our operations currently. These include the rising cost of aviation fuel. As you are aware, the budget was predicated on about 365 naira to 1 liter of aviation fuel. But right now, as of today, the cost of aviation fuel is about 1,150 naira. So that has created a lot of challenges for us because we can only operate when we can fuel the airplanes. Another challenge that we have faced is delays in the release of funding for procurement. The consistent delay in budgeting in budget funding is a significant challenge, bearing in mind that about 85% of Nigerian Air Force budget has to do with procurements that are foreign exchange based. Be it whether services or equipment is all foreign exchange based. So delays in this, and then plus the volatile nature of the foreign exchange that we have experienced in recent times also creates a lot of challenges for us in the conduct of our operations. Other challenges, as we are all aware, I will not deliberate upon porous borders, and then, of course, the challenges of manpower. Now, distinguished members the Speaker, distinguished members, the Nigerian Air Force has continued to conduct both independent and joint operations in collaboration with sister services and other agencies aimed at addressing the prevailing security challenges in the nation. These efforts have contributed to improve security across the various theaters of operations. The major challenges of the Nigerian Air Force in conduct of air operations include the rising cost of aviation fuel, delays in release of funding, complexity in targeting, porous borders, and then the poor manpower disposition. I believe that addressing these challenges will go a long way in enhancing the air efforts of the Nigerian Air Force towards alleviating the national security issues facing our dear country. I have left out a lot of detail from this brief in order to meet up with the timing. I hope that during the interactive session, we'll be able to discuss more, and I'll be able to give more detail, and whatever issues are arising, I will be able to address. Honorable Speaker, distinguished members, thank you very much for listening.
The Honorable Speaker, House of Representatives, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, PhD, the Deputy Speaker, House of Representatives, Right Honorable Ben Kalu, the leadership of the House of Representatives, honorable members of this House, members of the Nigerian press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Chief of Defense Staff, and the service chiefs who are here. My name is Kayode Egbetokun. I am the Inspector General of Police of Nigeria. I came into the office of the Inspector General of Police on June 19, 2023, with a vision to emplace a professionally competent, service-driven, rule of law compliant, and citizen-friendly police force that will support the agenda of government in the effort towards economic recovery and growth, as well as social and political development of our country. We are committed to a police force that will respond adequately and appropriately to the dynamics of crimes and criminalities in our communities. We want a police force that will be so well positioned to deliver effectively on its constitutional mandates. We want a police force that the members will be proud that they are police officers, and the Nigerian youths and Nigerian people will be proud of. Unfortunately, we met on ground a police force that has been battered, a police force that has suffered serious neglect over the past few years. The police also finds itself operating in very difficult environment, partly as a result, as a direct consequences of this neglect. The manpower in the police today is grossly inadequate. Even the criminals know that. The United Nations ratio of 1 to 400 is not attainable in Nigeria as of today, because the ratio in Nigeria is 1 to 1,000, which suggests that we have to double the manpower in the police and over. Provision of logistics is very poor in the police. We have 1,537 police divisional headquarters across 774 local governments in Nigeria. But getting vehicles, operational vehicles, for the division is difficult. Each of these divisions requires at least 4 functional patrol vehicles. But we have divisions who don't have any functional patrol vehicle as of today. Training in the police is still inadequate. The welfare of personnel is nothing to write home about.
Order, please.
Funding.
Order, please.
Funding.
Can we please take our seats, Honorable?
Funding is critical to achieving the mandates of the Nigerian police. Unfortunately, the citizens are not interested in our excuses for underperformance. What the citizens want is performance. They want us to serve them. We are willing to serve them, but we need your cooperation. We need funding. We need more manpower. We need logistics. We need to train our men adequately. We need to improve the welfare of our officers. We want a well-motivated workforce in the police. In spite of all these inadequacies, the police have been doing so wonderfully well in Nigeria. We have been doing our best to protect lives and properties across the country. We have been responding to the best of our ability. Unfortunately, no agency can perform beyond the limit of resources available to it. In the last 5 months, we have made a number of arrests. We have made a number of recoveries of illicit weapons. Some of these suspects are undergoing prosecution as we speak. But no amount of arrests that we make that will solve our security problems. Today we make arrests of 100. Tomorrow 200 criminals are coming out. It is not possible to arrest all the criminals and recover all the weapons. But within the environment where we function, the police has done so well, and we are still doing so much. We believe in interagency cooperation, and we are leveraging on the availability and the cooperation that is available from other agencies. We appeal for cooperation. We appeal for collaboration. We appeal that Nigerians should please support the police. We are implementing community policing strategies in all our communities. But we are reviewing this and changing to policing diverse communities. This means that we want to take into consideration peculiarities of each communities in the strategies that we employ in policing the particular community. Recently, I announced the establishment of Special Intervention Squad, which is going to be a standby unit of at least 1,000 men in each of the states. These men will be specially trained, they will be specially equipped, they will be specially remunerated, and be ready for deployment at shortest notice to any area of the country where there are crises. This way we intend to fight terror, to join the military in fighting terrorism in the northeast, fight armed banditry in the northwest and north central, fight kidnapping, armed robbery across all the country, across all our country, and ensure that we reduce violent crimes in our country to the barest minimum. We believe that with your support, we will get the police that we want in Nigeria. There are some of these weaknesses I also want to share, but I will wait for the executive section to share the details of this. Thank you.